What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you all for tuning in today. First start of this video, I just wanted to touch on my absence a little bit. I'm so sorry that I haven't been making content as much as I used to. I've just been super busy at the shop here, and any free time I've had has kind of gone into what we're going to go over today. I just really haven't had a lot of free time to do any videoing and editing and all that good stuff. The shop is like literally falling in around me here. I haven't even had time to mess with it. So a little bit of, yeah, it's real nice. All my insulation is falling down. Don't know why it's doing that, but we're gonna have to address that. But yeah, just want to go ahead and apologize for that. Start of this video. Plan to get back on more of a routine here, especially with what we're gonna go over today. So let's jump into it and go over everything that I've got for you. All right, so as you could probably tell from the picture, the thumbnail picture, we finally have an engine back for the OBS. I am so stoked to go over this with you guys. Me and Jeremiah both slaved the other day, stabbing it back in the truck. I don't even think we had it back here for a day, and we already had it back in the truck. But I'm going to go over pretty much everything, all the miscellaneous stuff that we've purchased, we've got put on the truck. I'll go over what we have left and everything, go over some of the products that have just come out that we've put on the truck itself. Kind of touch on a couple different things as much as I can, kind of give you all some good insight, good helpful tips and stuff. But I'm going to turn you around here and show you how it's looking right now. So this is how she sits at the exact moment. You can see all of our pretty pulleys that we got from JC Customs. I've got them all put on. I've got pretty much mostly everything buttoned up. Gen 3 is all put on, pumps in, lines are on from CNC. We got our new pump, our Hydroboost from OBS Solutions that just came out. I'm gonna go over that and what all we did differently with that. I have got my fuel system. I've kind of touched on that briefly on some of the other videos, that we would be doing the fuel system a little bit differently than what you traditionally see on a 7.3. So we're gonna go over that and how I tackled that project. There's a ton of stuff that I'm gonna have to just kind of remember that I have not touched on with you guys since we got the engine back. But I do want to go ahead and let's touch on what all is done as far as just the engine itself. So we'll do the short block, Acrylo rods, an Obsession diesel girdle. We did have to do quite a bit of modifications to that girdle to make it work. Not trash talking anything or anything like that, but just for y'all's purposes, I would recommend maybe just going a different route as far as that goes. Maybe like one of Corey's units from CNC Fabrication. That's a pretty good unit, and I know that it just bolts up. This one we had to do a ton of modifications to make it clear. The actual crank would hit it, but no big deal. Randy took care of that and got it to work. So that's what we're running there. It also came with some less than superior main studs that we didn't want to run. So we ended up swapping it out for some ARP main studs. So Acrylo rods, Obsession girdle with ARP main studs. The short block itself is half filled with, it's basically like a concrete type solution. Basically up to the first cam bearing. That's right where they like to crack. A lot of people don't know about that. I myself did not know about it when I kind of jumped into this and wanted to go pretty wild with it, and everybody that I talked to said that at the power level we're trying to get to, the block will crack. This is the original 97 block that came out of the truck. So it is actually a more superior design than what the 94 to like 95 trucks used. They had less webbing in the lifter guide area. So we kind of got that going for us, but Randy did half fill it. He made really nice passages and everything for what coolant will be running through the short block still. Still have wet heads and everything along those lines. The camshaft is from River City Diesel. Is their stage 2 500 lift or something like that unit. Pretty serious cam. It requires 30 thousandths fly cuts on the pistons. So what we ended up doing there was we kept a standard bore on the actual short block. I wanted to keep as much meat in the block as I could because we had learned about the cracking situation. So I don't want to take anything, even if it's 20, 30 thousandths, you know, that's not a lot, but if I can keep that in the block, that's what we wanted to do. So we went with a standard size piston from Irate Diesel. It has their 3 or 4 stage coating where the entire piston is basically ceramic coated. And then what I had them do was just whack 30 thousandths right off the top of the piston. We ended up doing that because of the cam, and then also because the head gasket that we're running requires 10 thousandths being cut off the deck of the block. So we were kind of pushing it a little bit there. So what we ended up doing was we just ended up taking 30 thousandths right off the top, no fly cuts or nothing, just 30 thousandths right off the top of the piston. Those are from Irate. Trying to think of what else went into the bottom end as far as that went. The crank and the camshaft gears are both welded. Some people don't know about that either. If you're kind of in the 7.3 world, that is a pretty known thing. The camshaft gear will walk off the cam, and it'll eventually start eating your cam position sensor here, and will eat the tip of it off, and you'll start running into the truck dying, running like crap. That is one thing that I have seen, so we went ahead and took care of that problem, not to worry about it again. Everything on the bottom end is completely gone through and balanced. The crank is polished, the whole 9 yards, balanced to a T. I wanted it to run as smooth as humanly possible, and we also have a fluid dampener on here. We also have all coated bearings, main bearings, cam bearings, everything. Randy went and picked up pretty much the most expensive bearings you can buy. Especially with the black truck having a main bearing failure. That is one thing that I did not want to have to worry about happening with this. That we have welded piston squirters. That's another thing people don't really think about when they do this. The factory piston squirters, oil squirters, are just a press fit, and they do fall out. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Riff Raff sells the welded ones. They're very inexpensive. So if you're going to go that route, I suggest picking those up. While we're on that subject, we'll go ahead and touch on lifters. It has Johnson short throw lifters in it. Those come from Kill Devil. We tried and ordering. It requires a custom length push rod, and they sent us one set. It was wrong. They sent us another set, and they ended up being wrong as well. So we just ended up basically, once we got the heads on, we just went ahead and measured and ordered a custom set of chromoly tubes from Comp Cams. That's really the only other things that we kind of ran into that was, you know, serious issues. But that kind of covers the short block as far as that goes. Like I said, we're running a fluid dampener and a billet ATS flywheel. So we'll probably move on from that and start touching on our cylinder heads. There's not a lot of stuff I can touch on these. This is kind of where we think that we're going to make our power number at. Randy really didn't have any time in the short block. The almost 2 years pretty much went into his design and everything of the cylinder heads on this thing. Both of mine on the original engine were cracked and not usable, so these were a set of good ones that Jeremiah had laying around. Really don't know what I would do without him. He's saved my butt on ungodly amounts of things, especially stuff like that. Saved me a bunch of money. So Randy went ahead and started working on those. There were no cracks and everything, good to go. Basically, the intake valve is like pretty much the size of the bottom of a beer can. It is enormous. He had to have them custom made from, I think, Farrah Valves, and he's pretty proud of them. I'm pretty proud of him. He spent an ungodly amount of time into, you know, developing these things, making them work. He ground a stupid amount out of the heads. If you look into a normal head, you usually cannot see the valve stems, but on these you can see every single one. It's pretty impressive stuff. That we have coated exhaust valves that are obviously bigger as well. He ended up having to notch the head gasket and the actual cylinder wall inside the block because the valve is so big that it would actually come in and start contacting, just barely contacting the side of the cylinder wall. So we ended up notching that. When he notched that, made that work. He spent a lot of time having to go back through and do that to clean that all up. That's really all I can kind of touch on the heads. It has comp cams, beehive springs, obviously the comp cams, custom chromoly push rods that we had to order. Basically what happened was we got the short block together, got our heads on, and you could rotate the engine around. There was about little over 17 thousandths or so of play. The rocker arm was just loose on every single valve, regardless of on a compression stroke or whatever it may be. So that's something we ran into. That was with the Kill Devil push rods. So we ended up just junking those and custom ordering these based off what Randy wanted. And he's pretty happy with it. I'm happy with it. We are running an MLX head gasket from Cometic that come from my buddy Justin Grebe at Eco Diesel Dynamics. So if you need those, go hit him up. Nothing wrong with the paper gaskets. It just wasn't something that I want to run. They're a pain in the butt to clean up if the heads have to come back off. And I just wanted something that was a little bit stronger, going to give me more reliability, especially with this power number we're trying to accomplish. So like I said, those require, roughly 10 thousandths to clean up the original milling marks off the block to where you have a perfectly flat surface. So, because if you do not do that, you will pop that head gasket. A lot of people don't like MLX gaskets because of that, but that is something you got to pay attention to how it's done and prepped. It's no different than a 6-liter at that point. So that's what we're running there. Obviously, we're running ARP head studs. I really don't, one thing that kind of irritated me was I don't understand why they don't make 625s for these engines. I know they're not known to make a ton of power or anything, but I always like to go overkill on my builds. And so we're just running the regular ARP head studs that they sell. So if y'all know anybody at ARP, tell them they need to make 625s. But so ARP head studs, that's pretty much all that went into the heads that I can touch on. I'll move this and show you what we got going on in here. You can see our nice chromoly push rods, nice and pretty. Our valve springs. Randy ended up basically using like a LS style valve retainer. He did a lot of pretty interesting stuff that I really don't understand, but pretty proud of him. He knocked it out of the park. And then he went through and the entire engine, he went through and descaled the entire engine. There's no sharp points on the engine. Descaled the entire thing, and then it is painted with tractor enamel, hardener, and clear coat. He killed it on the paint job of the engine, which is something that I did want, but he went above and beyond. I mean, it's just smooth as glass. It looks like you powder coated it, essentially. I mean, he killed it on this thing. The entire block is like that. I mean, it's some pretty impressive stuff. So I don't know. We don't know that the heads are going to make the power number what we want, but that's kind of what we narrowed down to. Some of the horsepower limiting factors were, a lot of people say it's the injector, so we tried to push as much fuel as we can. We got the high volt IDM, all that good stuff. Any way that we can inject as much fuel and make the pulse width as long as possible, we're going to try to do that. But we think most of it was in the cylinder head. So we're hoping that the way that Randy tackled this, that it'll make our power number. We don't know that it will, but I'm hoping it will, obviously. That's kind of all that went into the, the actual engine itself, the long block. I reckon that's all I can really think of went into the long block. So I guess there's one other thing, but it's going to kind of push us into our fuel subject area. So we're going to go ahead and touch on that. So while Randy was doing the heads, we ended up completely capping off your normal little 1/4 or 1/8 inch NPT fuel ports that you would use for a normal regulated return. And the way that we did that, basically Randy just put a plug in, cut it smooth, and then painted over it, epoxied it, made it look good, where you can't see them no more. And the solution to that is we drilled and tapped the fuel rail. So you have banjo bolts on, all four corners of the heads, and we ended up pulling those out and drilling them out to a bigger size and tapping them to an NPT size. And we are feeding the front with a -6 line and returning the back with a -6 line as well. It is essentially the same exact way you would do a regular return on a 6-liter. No different. It was probably not worth the hassle that went into making it work. But we had kind of talked to a few different people, and it was mostly my buddy Justin Greaves' idea, and I kind of just took it and ran with it. And basically his thought process on it is that if you could get rid of where it bottlenecks down into that tiny little fuel port that runs down and then goes into the head, where it's just a constant elbow and it's a real small hole, that you would pick up horsepower, because it would have more consistent pressure across the head and it wouldn't superheat the fuel or be as restricted on that hole. So Randy tapped all four corners of the heads, and I had to do a lot of different playing with different fittings to make it work. The back is no big deal. You got plenty of room back there to make it work. But as far as the front goes, these brackets are going to hit it. You've got maybe about that much room between the bracket and where the actual banjo bolt would be. So what I ended up doing was, I wish I'd have recorded it, but at the same time it was very frustrating and I had a lot of time in it. I ended up basically getting a really aggressive grinding burr, and I just ground out until it fit, essentially. I didn't know that it was going to work. It was a lot of trial and error as far as that went. Probably would have been a lot easier if we maybe fed in the rear and returned out the front out of the actual NPT ports, your original NPT ports, instead of messing with this stuff. And I think that may have been what Justin meant, but we had already done this, so that's how I went about it, doing it on my engine. But if I had to do it again, I would definitely probably just run a -6 to NPT adapter fitting, and then just return my fuel out the front and then feed into the rear. And then you wouldn't have to worry about what I had to do here. But like I said, I just took in a very aggressive grinding bit, and I went to town on these brackets until they fit. I made myself a nice clean path for my -6 line to come out of the bracket so it's not pinched. And I ended up picking up some very expensive swivel, low profile banjo fittings from Sweden. I wish I'd have kept the packaging. It was pretty cool. Nuke Performance is where they came from. They're pretty sweet fittings. They're full swivel. But you can kind of see here how I did it. See if I can get my flashlight here to help y'all out. You can kind of see down there how I brought it out, and you can see where it goes up behind the actual fitting, or not fitting, the bracket. And then I also had to do a lot of grinding on the actual belt tensioner there, because the belt tensioner would not bolt down. This one was super easy because you have all this extra real estate here, like where that bracket is so wide. This is pretty much all hollow right here. You just got a bunch of webbing in there. All I had to do on that one was just grind out all that webbing and then make myself a nice clean hole for my line to come out of the bracket and go down by the oil pan. So that one was cake. Didn't really run into any issues with that one. And then, but this one right here, your alternator bracket, this is different on a Super Duty, by the way. This is swip swapped. That was a fancy word, wasn't it? Swip swapped. But this one right here mounts completely flush. I mean, it's barely any amount of room. So I actually ended up having to, you can see my fitting right there. I ended up having to completely punch a big hole out of the side where your actual belt tensioner bolts up, right where the this thing has two dowel pins, centering pins, and I had to completely remove the bottom one out of it and then make myself a very clean path for the line to come out down here. But they completely move. And then as you can see, I've got nice little cable ties. I tied it all up underneath the cross member there, and then they run back behind the oil pan. And that will be our fuel feed. So definitely was a pain in my ass. I spent a lot of time grinding and being covered in aluminum, a lot of bolting it back up, seeing if it fit, and then having to finally grind the belt tensioner. A lot of work, a lot of work. So hopefully that will maybe pick us up some horsepower like everybody said it will. I really hope it does. We're doing a lot of trial and error stuff on this thing. And then I'm running the same exact fittings out of the rear, and we'll just return. This is just a 6-liter Power Stroke regulator return. The entire kit is. I just changed the fittings and everything as needed. So I'll run my lines back there, and then we'll have our return line that runs down the frame rail back to our tank. I have not done that yet because I'm waiting on the turbo kit to come in. I want to route my lines as nice and neat as possible. So I'll wait for that. So that's how I made the kind of the fuel system work on this and everything. And then obviously we're running an AirDog 165 5G unit, also taken off the black truck. And we got our tank sumped and everything, returning it the way that I want to return it and everything. That's a whole different mess back there. But we got that taken care of. So our fuel feed system and return system is pretty much done. I've touched on it before on our injector sizing. These are 450 400s from Unlimited Diesel. Also no hate on any of the other companies. This is just the most recommended and the highest quality from what I've heard injector. So that's definitely what I want to run with. We'll see how they do. We didn't really do anything different with rocker arms or anything. I'm just looking in there and touching on that. That has nothing to do with fuel system. But that's really all that goes into that. Go ahead and move to our oiling system. We have a milling low pressure oil pump. A lot of people say that the diesel site ones are not worth the money. They flow a little bit less than the milling ones, is from what I hear. And then you spend $600 on a diesel site high volume low pressure pump, and it doesn't supply as much volume as a milling pump. So just a milling low pressure oil pump. And then we have a Bosch, brand new Bosch 17-degree high pressure oil pump. And the reason that we go that route is because when you're running a Gen 3, you want to run the lowest, basically just a stock high pressure oil pump. Nothing big, because that's when you start running into the stalling and the idle issues and all that good stuff. And obviously we're running a Swamps Gen 3 unit. These have not been made for I don't want to say 10 years, but I think 10 years is what somebody said. It's been a long time. Swamps is no longer in business. I went this route because I like the way that they idle. A lot of people hate it, but I'm kind of going for more of a hot rod type deal here, so it beating the ground sounds pretty fun to me. So that's the route I went with it. I also do not like the full force, the BTS pumps. I don't like that big old damn dong sticking up all the way up here. I think it looks ugly. Just my opinion. I know they supposed to have better. There's a bird having a conniption outside. But they're supposed to obviously run more consistent, idle better. They have great idle characteristics because they run 2 IPRs. They're just 2, stock pumps stacked on top of each other. Another reason I didn't want to go that route is because I have talked to a lot of people. I try to do that when I jump into something like this. And I have heard too many accounts of the top pump locking up. And when it locks up, it will shred all the teeth off the secondary gear. And that goes straight into your oil system and destroys pretty much the engine. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to run into something like that. When the Gen 3 pumps go bad, they just stop making pressure. That's another reason I went this route. I can get past the idle characteristics and all that other stuff. I actually like it. But I ended up picking this up from a gentleman that had it used. It was pretty rough when it got to me, so I did a lot a lot of time cleaning it up, polishing the housing and everything, having to clean up my line. So this is our feed line that taps down into an oil galley plug right there. You got to run a MPT adapter to, I think, -6. So that comes up here, you feed it right here. So this is kind of to help feed this pump if it ever runs into like a high demand issue. Polished all of our lines and everything. I mean, I made it look as good as possible. It is running a brand new. I ended up having to pick up, I didn't have to. He did send me the pump that it came with, but with it being very old, not knowing what his engine went through and everything, excuse me, I wanted to go ahead and pick up a new pump. There was a lot of time in finding the right pump because apparently Haldex, Concentric, you know, they went through maybe a shutdown thing or a swapping of business, moving from Haldex to Concentric. So finding all the pump numbers that you find online, they don't give you really a good source for a pump. And there are also like 6 or 7 different gallon per minute pumps. And if you get one that's too big, it will blow the poppets open on the injectors and the truck's going to run like crap. So I did a lot of reading and thinking on this pump before I pulled the trigger on it. I want to be pretty good at it and understanding it. And with not having anybody to talk to, I ended up reaching out to a gentleman that worked at Swamps and was lead design on this pump. He now owns Diesel Technology at Chattanooga, and he put us on to the right size pump. And it is a reverse rotation pump. So if you ended up picking one that is normal clockwise pump, it wouldn't make any pressure. It has to be counterclockwise. So you have to take a different pump and you'll have to swap the guts out of it. And it's not hard, but you'd have to do some research on trying to find how to do that. So he ended up putting me onto this pump. It is the original pump that they used. It's not Haldex, it's a Concentric brand, and it is already reverse rotation, but we did end up having to pull it apart, and there's what looks just like a front main seal that you have to swap around and press in backwards so it can seep oil or something. I didn't really understand that. That's what he told us to do, so that's what we did. So we got a pretty good oiling system going on here. I think with the right tunes and everything, we'll be okay. Like I said, the idle characteristics do not bother me. I want the nice choppy idle. So that's kind of what we got going on with that. I ended up sourcing some nice ARP nuts, and finding studs that are that length are not fun. So the studs did not come from ARP, just the nuts. The studs were very hard to find. It's all stainless steel. I'm babbling here. Obviously we've got our CNC fabrication braided lines down there. You can see all nice and prettied up. That's all taken care of. I went ahead and you can see all the extra portholes have nice pretty billet flush cap fittings. I didn't want to put the ugly ones that come out of it back in it, so I found the thread pitch and everything for those. I think it's 5/16 orb fittings, so they're all nice, pretty, and everything. That's done. So pretty much everything oil system related is sealed, done, ready to rock and roll. We would have valve covers on and have our injectors wrapped up. We're waiting on our glow plug delete kit. We are not running glow plugs on this engine. I know that's kind of a dumb idea, but I do not want to have to worry about a glow plug tip breaking for any reason whatsoever, whether it's getting hot, melting, just breaking off in general, because parts nowadays suck. So I don't want to have to worry about that. I'm just going to go get some nice John Deere ether that has lubrication in it, and if it's a pain in the ass to start, we'll just give her a little sniff. I'd be a lot happier going that route. So we're waiting on that, and as soon as that comes in, we will be ready to completely button up our valve covers here. I'm ready to get that done. I've got my nice pretty ARP hardware for the valve covers, got brand new valve cover harnesses and gaskets from Ford. The glow plug delete kit's going to come from JC Customs, the same gentleman that built us these beautiful pulleys that we'll go over here in a minute. So we're just waiting on that, and then we will be done with pretty much everything as far as other than turbo kit. Trying to think of what else I want to touch on while we're right in this general area. I think that's it. Yeah, you can see. Another thing I wanted to touch on the engine was we ended up picking up a set of headers from my buddy Justin Grieb at Eco Diesel Dynamics. These are the nicest ones that I have read up on that won't warp or give you any trouble, and I'm very happy with them. They come out great. They're ceramic coated. The price point was good. I know a lot of people don't like headers because of the warping factor, but it is what it is. I don't think we're going to have a problem with how thick those flanges are. We are running a Ford ML metal layer gasket on that. They come with gaskets and studs and everything, so it's a complete package when you get it. I just wanted to run like a Ford metal gasket. So Randy went ahead and also made surfaced the exhaust flange on both the header and the cylinder head is completely flat. And then we are also, I went ahead and we are running stainless ARP 12-point studs. Like I said, you don't have to pick those up. Justin sends studs with it. But the entire engine, my whole thing behind the entire engine was I want stainless 12-point ARP hardware on the entire engine. So went ahead and picked those up. Very happy with those. Give us a little bit higher torque load as well. Those are done. They're just extremely close. So one thing I'll go ahead and let you know now, if you have an OBS and you're going to run headers and you are axle swapped with Sky's off-road kit, you've got about 10 thousandths of clearance between the coil bucket and the header. I mean, it is wicked close. So just want to let y'all know that one because we weren't prepared for that. But not a big deal. I don't think it's going to move or hit or anything. And if it does, it'll self-clearance. So not really worried about that one. Go ahead and move on and touch on the front of the engine here on what we got going on with that. Obviously going to touch on the pulleys. So these are a full kit that JC Customs will now be offering. I sent him every single one of my old pulleys and told him I wanted them all made. He had already made your smooth idlers here, which also can be used on your tensioner. So you can pick these two separately. He had already made these. But I wanted all the other ones. You know, if I'm going to have two pretty pulleys, I want the rest to be good looking pulleys as well. So I sent him all the other ones and asked him to make them for me. It took a little bit of time, but he knocked it out of the park. I am very happy with them, and he had asked me if it was cool for him to sell them. And one of my big things on this stuff, guys, is that I don't want to be stingy and greedy when I have something cool like this made. As much as I think it'd be awesome to be the only person to have the stuff, I think it'd be a lot cooler for you guys just to get online and buy the stuff, because it's a pain in the butt to go through and have to find stuff like this. And I think it's kind of bullshit that the Cummins guys, the Duramax guys, they always get cool, pretty stuff. They've got dress up kits, they've got cool pulleys, and anytime that you ask these companies to make some stuff for Power Stroke trucks, it's like pulling teeth. So I want you guys to be able to get online and buy the stuff. So go check them out. They're on JC Customs websites. They will be called the Lambert pulleys. He named them after me, which I think is super wicked. So go pick them up. I don't make any money off of them. I strictly just want you guys to be able to buy cool stuff and not have to go through all the research and development process of it and all that junk. So anything that I can do, like the glow plug delete kit, I sent those out to him, asked him to make that for me. Brian Gray used to make them, but where he passed away, nobody has a kit anymore. So stuff like that, I want you guys to be able to get online, find the stuff, buy it, and be able to build your truck. Because when you have to go through all this development stuff, it kind of puts you off on building trucks. A lot of people don't think that's fun. It is what it is. So go check those out if you want to pick them up. I know a lot of people aren't going to be, all about it because you can't really see them, but we will be running a electric fan setup on this, so you will definitely be able to see them. So if you're racing or whatever it may be, you got a show truck, I suggest going and picking them up. They look pretty sweet. But obviously, if you're just running your classic radiator, fan shroud, all that good jazz, you're not going to be able to see them. So probably not worth the change. But you know, it's one cool thing that's there and you guys can go pick up without all the hassle. Let's move on here. So from our pulleys, we have a J2 fabrication alternator. This also came off of my black truck. That's the reason I went with this powder coat color, because this was already powder coated. I had just bought this for the truck blew up. It was like $600 or $700. So I wanted to do red on the truck, but this was already powder coated. I didn't feel like spending $700 on a brand new alternator for no reason. So I ended up just going ahead and swap this on there. You have to change some of the wires in the harness for the 6-liter alternator. It is a high output alternator. With us running one battery, I want to have consistent starting. So that's that. We also have JC Customs H-pop cover here for your access for your gear, your bolt. It's a pretty sweet unit right there. He had already made this. This one has an O-ring in it, so no need for silicone anymore, which I think's pretty awesome. I really don't like that about these engines. That's one pet peeve of mine, is the silicone. 6-liter stuff's pretty wicked because it's all gaskets. It's a lot more user accessible, I should say. Like if something happens at the pits or something, you know, you're kind of SOL with silicone and having to clean it all up. Big mess. That's one thing I don't like, but that's about it. So that's knocked out. Using an O-ring on that. We have a brand new Motorcraft water pump here. This comes straight from Ford. Pretty awesome unit. I tried to clean it up and polish it, but without sanding it. This is as good as I can make it look. Obviously, we have all our stainless 12-point ARP hardware. These are the billet necks from Riff Raff Diesel. They're pink because the black ones were out of stock, and this was as close as they had to the purple. This purple actually looks pink in the sun, so I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. I actually kind of like it. It sets everything off. And then Michael is building us some stainless TIG welded radiator hoses that will be coming with the turbo kit. And then we also have the one down here. This is like off of a Super Duty, so you don't have that big old loop that runs down, or if you run an international one with the coolant filter, it's all one cast piece. It's just kind of ugly in my opinion, and I don't care about a coolant filter. We have all brand new sensors all throughout. Everything's brand new as far as sensor goes. We have the fluid dampener like I had said, and then obviously the way we did our banjo bolts and fuel system and everything like that. Our belt here, I want to touch on our belt. This is I had to do some reading on this one. This is to get rid of your vacuum pump. Obviously we're running a Hydroboost brake system on this truck, and I don't want to have any unnecessary like idlers I had to make or whatever it may be. I just want it a nice clean look. So I ended up, a lot of people say you have to run a Super Duty style tensioner, which is definitely something that I was not going to do because I already purchased these pulleys. And you're supposed to whack this basically this extra pulley goes away. It's part of the tensioner, and you're supposed to cut your bracket off right there. And I did not want to do that, so I ended up finding this belt. It is I got it written down. It is a Gates part number 081145. You can pick it up at Napa. And that basically is the right length to just get rid of your vacuum pump, and you can keep all your original stuff here. It's nice and tight, not a problem. Happy with that. Another thing I want to touch on real quick while we're here that I ran into was on our power steering pulley. I don't know why we ran into it. I ended up putting this pulley kit on one of my buddy's trucks, and it pressed on just fine, not a problem. And we went ahead and put this brand new power steering pump on there, and I could not for the life of me get that pulley to press on there. I don't know why it did that or what it may have been, but I ended up letting JC Customs know about it. We ended up having to take it over to Randy and let Randy mill out about 8 thousandths out of the inside of it for it to press up on the rest of the way. Don't know why I ran into that, but if you have already purchased this pulley kit, you know, or if you're planning on it and you run into that, take it to your local machine shop and just let them mill out the inside of it. Not a big deal. Usually they won't charge you for something like that. So just something to keep in mind there. I want y'all to be pretty open with this. All right, so on our Hydroboost setup here, let's go over that real quick. This just came out. It is a new product from OBS Solutions. I am extremely happy with this. I've been waiting on this almost the same amount of time that the engine's been at the machine shop. Let me tell you guys, the vacuum brakes on these trucks suck. If you race your truck or goof off in it or anything along those lines, I could not get the brakes to hold more than 5 psi on the line to launch, and it would always push through the brakes. Always would piss me off. I do not like that. And with us going ahead and swapping Super Duty axles up underneath it and having 4-wheel disc brakes, this was not off the table. This was 100% going to happen regardless of if I had to make it work or not. So what usually people had to do was you had to source all these stuff off an F Super Duty, basically a OBS F450. And it was just a pain to try and source all that stuff. And if you did end up finding it from a parts store, it's just junk parts. They're not good stuff at all. So that is one thing I didn't want to do. So I ended up just opting out and waiting for OBS Solutions to make this kit. Very, very happy with it. They've made a custom plate and it's got a custom rod. And what would happen on your F Super Duty conversion kit was you'd have to try and find the brake pedal as well, because what happens is that rod's a lot longer than your vacuum booster, so your brake pedal would be kicked up real high, and you have to do a lot of modifications. I forget what all you'd have to do. You'd have to repin where the actual brake pedal went to get it lowered back down, and that's not something I was gonna try and fight and deal with. This one uses your original brake pedal. It does not stick out off the firewall at all. It's nice and flush. It has their own custom mount that mounts the firewall. No drilling, nothing along those lines necessary. They include all your hardware, bolts right up. It was cake. And it is an 05, basically an 05 Hydroboost that they customize. And I love it. I'm extremely happy with it. I can't wait to feel the difference and see how much we can hold on the line. And I'm fixing to jump over and steal the master cylinder off of the black truck for it. But I'm going to go ahead and go over how I did my lines, since this is not something that they will touch on. We are also running an 05 steering box. There's no real reason to upgrade to that. You know, you get a little bit better turning radius if you swap to an 05 up box. And I had one off the black truck, and it's a brand new blue top. So we went ahead and swapped it over. You do have to drill out your mounting holes down here, which is no big deal. These are actually 6-liter head studs that we just cut to length and drill out the holes, and they're the right thread and everything. They work perfect. That's how we made that work. You do have to notch the cross member for it. Also not a big deal if you're good with air tools. But I am not running a power steering cooler on this truck. I don't see the need for it. That might bite me in the butt later. We don't know yet. But this truck's really not going to be driven that much. So the way that I did that was, this kit will come with your 2 fittings right here that go into the actual Hydroboost. They're the exact same that will go into the 05, the lower box, your actual 2 ports right there. And the ones that come with the kit are wrong for the 05 steering box. They are correct to run this Hydroboost with your factory OBS steering box. It's meant to basically just be a plug and play unit. You can check it out on their website. They go over everything. You got 3 different options to buy all the stuff that you need. But that's how I did mine. I ended up calling them and asking them just for 2 more of these fittings. They sent them back out to me, and it worked perfect. So we have all our last lines here. I've got them all nice and wire tied up and everything, heat shrunk to where they look pretty. They look like AN lines. And then I've got my return fitting off the Hydroboost here. All that's done, ready to rock and roll. And the way that I did my system here was, this is our Hydroboost return, and then what I did down here was, this is obviously a Super Duty style power steering pump. So you have 2 ports instead of 1. So one's right there, and you have another one right here. This is just a line that I brought down, and then I've got a nipple fitting that goes right here, and this is basically just our steering box return port. So no longer need no power steering cooler or anything like that. That's completely tied up, ready to rock and roll. I just got to put my master cylinder on and make brake lines, and we're ready to rock as far as brakes goes, bleed everything, and we're done. I think that's everything that went into the Hydroboost. Turned out awesome. Very, very happy with it. The brake pedal is where you would want it at. Come out pretty awesome. Just like anything normal. Just a normal brake pedal. Not kicked up like on an F Super Duty system. It'd be like way up here. So don't have to worry about that no more, which is awesome. And it's I think they even made it to where it's basically like a Heim joint, and you can move it out. So if you want your pedal to be farther up or farther down, you got some adjustment there. I just left it the way it came. No big deal. But that's a plug and play unit ready to be picked up off a website. Don't have to worry about nothing. It utilizes your factory master cylinder, so you don't have to change any of that stuff. You can literally just pop that off, take your vacuum booster out, swap this on, and bolt your factory master cylinder back up off your OBS. Absolutely awesome kit. The only reason I'm stealing the one off the black truck is because it has a bigger bore, and I just want more pressure, especially with it having disc brakes all the way around. So that's all I've got as far as the Hydroboost goes. Go check it out on obsolutions.com. Pick it up. It's ready to rock and roll. Plug and play unit, and then you can axle swap and have disc brakes all the way around. I tried to tie all our wires up under here, make them look pretty. We have our EGT probe and our header back there that sucked. I broke a tap off in it and had to pull the header back off and take it over to the Dome Gnome and let him weld a nut to it to get it out. And that sucked. That definitely was not fun. I've never broken any cheap Chinese tap, but by God, the one snap-on tap I own snaps. So that kind of pissed me off, but it is what it is. That's done. EGT probe's done. Our EBP sensor, I am not going to tap the other header for EBP. I'm going to run the EBP sensor in the actual intake plenum. That way, what you can do as far as that goes is you can actually start watching actual boost pressure on your CTS3, just reading it off the exhaust back pressure sensor, and it is no different than what it would be reading on exhaust back pressure. So I'm pretty stoked for that. I'm just going to tap the intake plenum right where it would traditionally be, like on a Super Duty or something, and run my wire, extend my wire over to that, and then we can watch actual boost pressure, not what the map sensor is seeing. So we'll have the map sensor and then our actual boost off the EVP sensor. I don't know what 7.3 sensors go to. Hopefully it'll go past what the truck will make, and we can actually monitor and data log actual boost pressure without, you know, any extra gauges or anything. All of our oil in here. Here's our, we're gonna run our break-in oil first. So whenever we get the truck ready to fire up, we're gonna have a bunch of people over here. There's a ton of people that want to hear it fire up that have had a hand in getting it ready to rock and roll. So we're gonna have a bunch of people over here, but mainly me and Randy will go ahead and we'll get the truck fired up. We'll check for leaks and everything, verify oil pressure, all that good stuff, make sure everything sounds good. We'll get it up to temperature, shut it off, make sure everything's still tight, and then probably go rip it around the block real quick, come back and go ahead and drop the break-in oil out of it. And I've shown in another video our reusable oil filter that we got from Justin, where we can basically, once we get back and shut the truck down, we'll go ahead and pull that filter off, drain the oil, pull that cartridge out, and see if there's anything we don't like in the oil filter, and then go from there. But that's the plan for break-in procedure. I don't want to do 1,000 miles or anything like that like we normally do with like our 6 liters with new engines and stuff like that, and that's what Randy wants to do. And then as soon as that is done, we have our oil has come in from Hot Shots. So we are going to be running the Adrenaline 2050 racing oil from Hot Shots. I'm pretty excited to try that out. It's pretty wicked. You wouldn't think 2050 would be that kind of liquidy, but pretty excited for that. I know that Hot Shots has some really good stuff. I'm usually pretty strict and run Schaefer's in most of my stuff, but especially with us starting to get into more of the higher horsepower, racing stuff, I wanted to switch over to Hot Shots. They have a pretty wicked video segment with Fire Punk where they changed their oil out and everything, and it actually picked up horsepower just off an oil change with their oil. And then they also just came out with this stuff that we went ahead and picked up, and this is basically this turns just pump diesel fuel into racing diesel fuel. You are supposed to recalibrate your tuning for this and everything. It's supposed to be some pretty wicked stuff. I'm very excited to try this out. It is a little bit on the expensive side, so is the oil, but 1 quart of this treats only 4 gallons of diesel fuel. So we've got like 20 gallons worth right here or so, and then in a 38-gallon Bronco tank. So I'm just going to use that for now. So we'll get that fired up and ready. And then as far as tuning the truck goes, I'm very up in the air on it at the moment. I believe I'm just going to get a base file from Dan Kaepernick, and just to where we can get the truck, drivable. And then where he's so far away, I'd like to take it to him if he had a dyno and do it. But Jelly Built just purchased a dyno. They have in-house tuning and everything now. So I believe we may be going ahead and loading this up on a trailer and potentially driving it up to South Carolina or North Carolina or South Carolina where they're located, and getting it fully dialed on a dyno. And I feel like that's probably going to be our best bet to get the most potential out of the truck. So I'm still up in there on that one, but I think that's kind of where I'm leaning at the moment. I like everybody's tuning. I think Dan's got some really great tuning. That's what everybody's kind of been putting me on towards. But he's in Canada, and Jelly Built's about 5-6 hours away from us, and we can, spend a lot of time on the dyno getting it fully dialed in. So, like I said, up in the air on that, but we'll go from there. Obviously, we have our coolant. Just going to be running Motorcraft Green with our additive that they call for. Nothing special there. And here's our battery cables. This is off the black truck. I'm just going to cut them to the length that I need, and then I polished my oil dipstick because I was bored. So that come out pretty good. That ought to look real nice. Just one extra little tidbit of looking good there. But let's go ahead and we'll go over the turbo now. I think that's really the majority of stuff that I had. Obviously our nitrous is completely done. But yeah. So here's our turbo. This, I was going to run in some of the other videos, you've seen a purple housing charger. That was actually the atmosphere turbo off the compound kit for the black truck. And I was going to run that. It was just a KC built 480. Nothing super special. I was going to run that because I had it, but our powder coater Garrett come and actually picked up the entire compound kit, so it is gone. And I want it to kind of upgrade to a ball bearing charger, and maybe one that's a little bit more on the expensive side. And I ended up pulling the trigger on this one. This is a 480. It's pretty much the same exact size. It is a 480 96 110. I already had the hot side housing. I actually picked that up to switch from a T6 to a T4 from the atmosphere charger off the black truck. And so I already had this, and it is a very expensive housing because it's the only one made that utilizes a 96 exhaust wheel on a T4 base. So it was very expensive, and I already had it ceramic coated and everything, so I had like $700 in just the hot side housing. So I kept that and just went ahead and got a super core. And basically This is the only really big difference is this is obviously a much nicer turbo, but the biggest thing is it is a dual ball bearing charger. That is definitely something I want to try. I want this charger to come on as fast as humanly possible, and I've never really ran a ball bearing unit, so I definitely want to go that route. And they just come out with these. This is their GTR line. It is a true dual ball bearing. I did buy the one with their fancy VS racing cover, and then it is also their billet center section. Very nice unit. I am extremely happy with it. I cannot wait to get it slapped on the truck and try it out. But I think this is definitely going to be better suited for us than the turbo that we had. Definitely not going to powder coat it. I like the polished look. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit better and get it slapped on. And I had to order another thing is that I did not know this, but I picked up a they have two different style center section clamps for your exhaust housing to the center section, and I did not know that, but the T4 V-band, the clamp for the center section, will not work as a T4 clamp. When you go to something like this, this still uses a T6 clamp. So I did not know that, so I did end up having to pick up a T6 clamp from Forced Inductions to go ahead and get the hot side bolted on. That's really all that's different about the charger. That's really about all I've got, guys. I don't really think we have anything else. The tank is completely done. I just got to finish running a couple different lines. Well, guys, I think that is really going to be the gist of what I got for you in this video. I pretty much covered everything that I can think of off the top of my head that we have knocked out so far. I'm going to go ahead and stab this radiator in and try and get a master cylinder put on the truck today. But yeah, I think that's really it. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in. Like I said, I'm sorry for being absent, and I'm going to try and get on a better schedule and everything. Like I said, I've just been extremely swamped. Summer is our busiest time where we have trucks breaking down all the time, and it's just non-stop. So any free time I have, I've been trying to plug away on the white truck. So hopefully now we can get it slowed down a little bit and get jumped back on, you know, a more routine with the videos and stuff. I do have some stuff coming down that I want to do videos on. First and foremost, this thing will be getting dropped and getting out of here very soon. The engine is ready to be picked up, and I'm going to be jumping on our first YouTube customer truck here. It has been annoying me that I haven't been able to jump on it. Been constantly having to do other stuff. So I'm definitely going to get him pulled on the rack next and get it knocked out. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with this truck, so definitely want to make a cool video series on it. And I think the last time I talked about that truck, he had went in for triple bypass surgery, but he is A-okay. So thank you to everybody that said prayers for him and everything. Super great news with that. He's a great guy. So we'll jump on that next as soon as we get the 6.4 off the rack. And then I have also purchased a dually, and we're going to be doing a tow pig build. So definitely going to be throwing a couple odds and ends on that truck, getting it ready, and then we will have something to haul the white truck over there to and from some events, and probably going to go pick us up a nice trailer, you know, when money allows. But I think that's really it, guys. I think that's all I've got for you. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. Like I said, I'm sorry about the absence, but I will jump back in it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video. See ya.